Hello, everybody. My name is Sean Cacaro alongside Vinny Mascol for a brand new episode of SNV Sports, where this week we're going to talk about the Elimination Chamber, our thoughts on every match, and we'll talk about what we could expect on this upcoming week of Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown, as the very next pay-per-view will be WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the city of brotherly love. But first and foremost, Vinny, how are you doing today?
Uh, Not feeling great, but I think it might have to do with that the fact that I stayed awake for that elimination and
So
I don't know. It was
before we before we get to
interesting.
the chamber, what was your process? I'm gonna share mine too. What was your process for waking up at 5 in the morning? Because we're on the East Coast.
Uh,
Vinny's in New York City. I'm in Eastern Pennsylvania. What was your process
Dude, it
for
was
waking up at 5 in the morning?
yeah, it was like go to sleep at 7 so that I could be up by like 4:30ish, get a cup of coffee, and then kind of stay awake for the for the for the thing. And even then it was like there were certain times I was like dozing in and out. But I kinda got the gist of everything and kinda knew, I mean,
Yeah.
I did miss the most important thing that you said, we'll talk about it,
Hmm.
because I did, like, kinda I believe I dozed out. No, I didn't. I actually got up to go to the bathroom during that time, and
Hmm.
that which I shouldn't have, but, anyway, yeah, that was pretty much the process of what happened, trying to go to bed early so I could get up early, like,
Yeah.
really early, and then stay
See,
awake.
I did the complete opposite. Now, I'm not gonna go into too much detail. Um,
You
I had
tried
a
to
bit
stay
of a
awake for the whole thing.
I stayed up the whole night, but I had a logical
Yeah, you can't
reason
do
because
that, bro.
I was gonna do what you would do,
Yeah.
try to go to bed a little early.
Haven't
I
you
had a
ever worked overnights?
No, never overnights. Late nights,
See,
yes.
I've worked overnights before.
So you know how to prepare.
I know
Yeah,
how to prepare. See,
latest I've ever
that's
stayed at
kinda what
work
I
was 2 a.m.
yeah,
So,
see,
but
I've
I'm
worked
also
overnights till like 8 in the morning.
I
I
have
know.
I have insomnia, so staying up late's usually not an issue. But in this case,
Yeah.
again, I'm not gonna go into too much
It's hard,
detail. Had a
man.
bit of a
It's hard.
family emergency.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
promise everybody is okay.
yeah, yeah.
um, so we spent the night at local hospital. Again, I'm not gonna explain too much into this, but I stayed up all night and we were watching it at 5 in the morning. Like I said, I never went to sleep. My family did. Um, so I had a bit of a hard time staying up through the whole show. I was able to see everything. I would doze off like mid match, like the part of the match where you're not going to miss much anyway. So it didn't hurt that much. And yeah, it was. I'll tell you this. You know what? No, I won't. I'll save that for my final thoughts on the show. But
Yeah.
certainly, I don't want to do that again. I
Yeah,
don't.
well, I'm thinking maybe one more time this year, we might have to
Yeah, we might. We'll have to see. I know there's
there
shows
might
in
be,
Backlash will be in
one more
Paris, which
shows.
won't be too bad. That'll probably be like a 3 o'clock start or something. There's probably gonna be another show in Jeddah. I can live with the early afternoon shows, but
Australia's the furthest away you could get, though.
hey, at least it wasn't like what our truth did. Did you hear about what
Went
happened
to
with our truth?
Austria.
He went to
Yeah.
Austria
I
instead. So
They should have actually sent him to Austria and showed him there talking to an Austrian
yeah,
person.
I was,
That
and
would have
that's
been classic. I would have signed up for that. That would have made the whole time staying up worth it. The whole thing.
exactly.
The whole thing.
That would have
Telling you.
been amazing.
I mean,
But
just show him like talking to an Austrian guy or
yes.
girl or whoever, you know, whatever.
So let's jump right into it. First match of the night was the on the kickoff show, which I didn't see because I didn't realize there was a match on the kickoff show actually.
Yeah, I mean they fit Indy Hartwell in, which I thought was great.
Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae, if I remember
Candice LeRae.
correctly,
Candice
against
LeRae.
the Kabuki Warriors
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the championship. The Kabuki Warriors would end up winning this match. I didn't get to see the match, but my overall thoughts on this one is it really wasn't a surprise. I don't think any of us
Mhm.
were anticipating a title change on the kickoff show,
Right.
especially this close to Mania. And I think we're going to be saying that about a lot of these matches. But
Hmm.
Vinny, any overall thoughts on this one?
They gave, the fact that they gave Hartwell the stage pretty much because there was a point in the match where she took on both Kabuki Warriors by herself.
Hmm.
So the 50,000 plus were like kind of they gave them something to lead off to cheer about. But I think, and this was my thing, was I thought, and I remember you alluded to this a little bit earlier, like in one of our podcasts earlier, that the fact that they should have dropped it, since probably, I mean, I don't know how many people actually watched it,
Mhm.
but the fact that they should have just done it in front of Australia, had
Mhm.
the Kabuki Warriors drop the titles to Hartwell and Candice LeRae. I understand it's close to. I know all the factors that go into like doing that, but you
Mhm.
could have dropped them back like in a rematch, either on Raw or SmackDown. You
Yeah,
know, in
well,
front of whomever you're going to. I don't even know
mhm.
where they're going next, but
West Coast. I know
okay,
that.
so they're going to the West Coast, whatever. Just have them drop them again, and then at least you give the Australians. I mean, and I mean, we're going to talk about this, but it was pretty much like chalk throughout
Mhm.
the whole thing. But
Well, and that's the thing.
you could have made the you could have like made it really cool. I mean, you kind of I don't know.
I still
It just
feel
seemed
like
to me they could have done it
WWE got what they wanted. They wanted Indy Hartwell to get the spotlight because that is where she's from,
right.
and
Right.
in the end, she got the ovation she deserved. So I think in the end, WWE got what they wanted, and that's probably why they wouldn't drop the titles. If I think the only situation where we would have gotten what you just said was if there was like a if she doesn't win, we riot type of crowd. And it's the threat WWE fans love to make.
Right.
Triple H's legendary promo on that. But
Right. Right.
I think that's probably the only situation where we would have actually seen them win the title. But I think
Right.
in the end, I don't have a problem with the outcome because we WWE got what they wanted.
Right.
A
Right.
match where Kabuki Warriors remained champions and
Hmm.
Indy Hartwell still had her moment in the sun. But one of the things now normally on this show we do review Raw and SmackDown, but because this is a premium live event week, we're not going to really do that. But there was one thing I want to talk about from this past Friday night SmackDown relating to the Kabuki Warriors was Dakota Kai was attacked, and we're going to see her return to the ring this upcoming Friday.
Yeah, that kind of went under the radar a little bit.
It did kind of go under the radar. We're going to
I
talk
was
about that
kind of
more.
shocked about.
We'll talk about that more in our Raw and SmackDown previews. But that was something I was kind of hoping we'd see a little more involved
Yeah, they needed to flesh that out a little bit
in
more.
that match, but we didn't. So again, we'll get more to what we could expect on SmackDown, but there was really no progression in that damage control storyline
Yeah, we
on.
didn't even see Bailey at all.
There was a
Um,
lot of stars we really didn't
we didn't see a
see.
lot of. I think it was because of the transition between going to, like, there wasn't a lot of people there that they flew to Australia. I think
Yeah,
because they didn't fly everybody there.
yeah,
Um, I think that had a lot to do with it, and I think
hmm
they could only use certain people in certain times, and
yeah.
so the storylines were a little bit less,
Well, we know
and that's why.
SmackDown they recorded the same night as the previous week because
Yeah,
and it's funny you noticed it. I didn't even think about it, but when you watch
yeah,
the opening of SmackDown, they didn't bring up a city, so
yeah,
that's kind of
exactly,
how you knew they were doing two
exactly. So
shows in one
they,
night.
yeah, so
And
they
it was
really
interesting how
were.
they
Yeah,
had
sorry to hear
Roman
that.
Reigns. It was interesting
Yeah,
how they had Roman Reigns on the second show, but never came out for the crowd. So I thought that was
yeah,
interesting.
I know. Well,
But
we'll talk
we're gonna
more
talk
about
more
that
about
too,
that.
because that was, yeah.
So
I have an issue with that.
we moved to the main show and the opening match, the women's elimination chamber match. I thought it was a solid match. I'm not going to break down who eliminated who because then we're going to be here all night.
Right,
But
right.
in the end, we got what we expected. Becky Lynch wins. Vinny, how did your pick of Tiffany Stratton end up?
Well, I want to say when she came out of the pod, that was when it was
It was
interesting.
good.
Like,
I will admit
she
to that.
had energy. Um,
The crowd loved her.
she was like, I mean, she showed off all of her gymnastic skills.
Hmm
Like, like she, I don't know, man. She's gonna be a superstar in the WWE. I mean, give it a little time, but she's gonna be going for like titles pretty soon.
I was kind of
Um,
disappointed with the fact that, and I understand it was a stacked lineup for this chamber,
right.
that her and Naomi were eliminated
Well,
so
Stratton wasn't supposed to
early.
be in it, I don't think.
Well, who was supposed to be in it
I
then?
think they wanted Shotzi. in
Well,
it.
she got hurt, so
Right.
yeah,
I
you're
think they
right.
wanted Shotzi, and so but
Mhm.
that was a brilliant surprise was Stratton being in it, because I think Stratton did
She
better
made the match a lot
than
better.
I think Shotzi would have done.
But I'll
And
tell you this,
I
the
like
one
Shotzi,
element
but, you know.
the one element that I did like was with the final 3, it did actually kind of feel unpredictable. I was still convinced Becky was winning, but you had 3 stars that you could see going up against Rhea. Obviously, Becky, I know her real name's Becca, but
Right, right.
Becky, we all thought that was the situation that was going to happen. But Liv Morgan
Mhm.
had her own story with Rhea that she wanted to
Right.
finish, and
Right,
Bianca versus Rhea would be a fantastic match in
right.
itself. So it did feel kind of unpredictable, and the final 3 made it very entertaining. The whole match, I give it an A+. I thought it was a solid match.
Right.
My only complaints, and it really can't be a complaint because in the end it was just that stacked of a lineup, was that Naomi and Tiffany Stratton were
But the way
eliminated
Tiffany
so
went out,
early.
though, she went to the top of the pod, she took out 3 people, and then was pinned
Yeah,
by Liv. Like, that's BS to I did not
I
like that at
agree.
all.
I
That was
agree.
just like that was bad. That was just like, okay, that's dumb.
So what do you grade this match?
I am probably gonna go, well, and it doesn't have anything to do with Stratton not like going further. But I have Sporting News gave it a B plus. I probably would give it. I mean, I'd probably would have. I probably agree with that. I'd probably give it a B plus because I don't like how, the person that I picked got eliminated.
Yeah,
But
that
I
early.
kind of I was very impressed with the way Liv Morgan actually has
Grown as a
grown as a
character. I
wrestler,
agree.
because she apparently she trained with um what's her name, in the Heart Dungeon with Natalia. Um so that kind of showed up a little bit too.
Yes,
She does do a little too many code breakers, by the way. Like, she
I
does
agree.
way too many of them.
They didn't call
I'm
it that
sorry.
anymore, but
Well, they don't call it, but, well, no, no, no.
or do they?
He did call it a code breaker.
Oh, okay. Oh, so I
Yeah,
do have the limit. I didn't have them all memorized, but
yeah.
I'll just quickly read off the eliminations.
Yeah, I
Naomi
have them too, yeah. Yeah, I'm
Naomi was
curious.
eliminated by Stratton. Stratton was eliminated by
Yeah,
Morgan.
that's BS. Okay.
Raquel was eliminated by Belair, which
Yeah.
was actually kind of fun watching those two go at it.
Yeah, that was pretty.
Belair was eliminated by Morgan. Morgan was eliminated by
That was quick, and that was actually pretty. That was probably the most genius part of the whole match, was as quick as that was.
Yeah, it was. I agree.
But I don't like when people, like, finish a move, they
Yeah,
get hurt, and then you can pin them right away, like Stratton did,
I
like
agree.
what happened to Stratton. And actually, I think that happened to Raquel also.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think she had something, and then let me see. Belair's energy saw her Rodriguez after quickly pinning her down. However, she was caught off guard by Morgan, who slammed her into the pod. The momentum shifted again, blah blah blah. But yeah, I think the Raquel one was a little bit BS too, though. So
Yeah, I agree.
um,
But when you have a
I don't know.
match that's going for that
But I would,
long, I can
uh,
understand it
yeah, I know
to an extent.
you gotta kind of get to the finish. But I would probably agree with Sporting News and give it a B plus. I
So
think that
Bleacher
was about.
Report gave it an A, which I can agree with.
Mm,
I think it was. I still think it was. I was very happy with the match. It exceeded my
I just think the
expectations.
eliminations could have gone differently,
I agree. That's
and I
probably my
think
only
the
complaint.
order should have been a little bit different.
I agree. So
You know,
moving along,
go ahead.
the next match, which was kind of a dud in my opinion, the Judgment Day
Yeah.
defeats New Catch Republic. Is that really the name they're
New
going
Catch
with?
Republic, yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't.
It has to do with the style of wrestling.
I agree, but
Yeah, it's the, yeah,
but
catch
the
style.
most entertaining part of this match, in my opinion, was the way Dominic was getting booed, as always. And
Oh yeah.
did you
How
see?
much of that do you think is like that? That's got to be part of that has to be pumped in. Like, there's no way that
No,
all of
what they
people.
do is they turn his microphone down. That's what they've been doing.
Oh, okay. So they don't
Sometimes it's
pump. It
obvious, sometimes it's
sounds
not.
like.
Last night was kind of
Yeah,
obvious, but
yeah,
at
that's
least at the
crazy.
time of recording for us, it's last night,
Yeah,
or yesterday morning, I should say, not last
yesterday
night.
morning. Yeah. Mhm.
But I thought that was interesting. I don't know if you noticed this. Now I didn't because this is one of those matches I was dozing in and out on. They actually
Mhm.
blacked out the screen, and what a lot of people thought it was a
They
technical
did.
difficulty, but
They
it
did.
wasn't. They had to blur out the fans giving Dom the middle finger.
Oh, that made a lot of sense. I thought maybe someone was like being like someone may have like been cursing, you could read
Crazy
their
fan.
lips or something or but I kind of knew it was because of that because
Yeah, that's what it
there's
was.
no way that it went out like that, you
Yeah.
know.
So not gonna spend too much time on this match.
Yeah.
Bleach Report gives it a B plus. I give it a B. Again, this is a
Um,
match I wasn't that invested on because we all knew the outcome. Judgment Day, if they're gonna lose the titles, it's not gonna be an Elimination Chamber. It was very
no.
predictable. Felt like a
Yeah.
squash match.
Yeah.
I'll go B. I still think it was at least an entertaining match from what I was able to remember. But
Yeah.
I give it a B.
I'm gonna give it actually. I probably would agree with a B. Sporting News gave it a B minus. Um, but I did like Pete Dunne and Bate the way they wrestle. I
Hmm.
thought it was like pretty cool to see that style.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you know what you're gonna get from Pete Dunne. He's all like,
Oh yeah.
crazy,
He deserves a
But
push.
but Tyler Bate, man, he's when he gets him in the headlock and he moves his foot and he like
Hmm.
takes his foot and he like pushes it up against his head, like that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
You
You
know
don't
what's
see that stuff
You
really.
know what was funny too about that? When me and my family were watching SmackDown on Friday in the room, the
Hmm.
nurse walks in and that was actually it was that match that was going on SmackDown.
Hmm.
And the nurse is watching like, "Oh my goodness, what is happening?" I'm like,
Hmm.
"That's just their style of wrestling. It's
Right.
crazy."
Yeah.
But
And I think
yeah,
I think Dom is just pretty great.
Dom is a great heel.
Like Dom
You
is
can't
great,
deny
man.
that.
I can't believe how much better he is as a heel than he was as a babyface.
I agree.
Like I could care less about him when he was a babyface.
So, what was your overall grade on this one?
I would
And what did
I would go with you. I'd probably give it a B. Like I
What did
said,
Sporting
Sporting
News
News gave
give
it a
it?
B minus. A B minus.
Okay. So
They
Bleacher
didn't like
Report
it
had
as
the
much.
highest, B
Yeah,
plus.
yeah. I think you could go around that B range. I think that's probably
Yeah.
fair.
So I want to move along to the next segment, which I found to be very disappointing, and I know you'll agree.
Yeah.
Next segment was the Grayson Waller effect with
Ugh.
Austin Theory as the co-host, and their guests were Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. Now, part of the reason this happened may not be what you think, but this
Mhm.
was actually supposed to be a match between Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed, but
And
because of
Seth's
Rollins'
hurt.
injury,
Hmm.
that did not happen. So this
Hmm.
was their way of
Also,
substituting for it.
Bronson Reed had a baby as well. By the way,
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's good to know
he
too.
had
But
a yes, yes, he had
congrats, Bronson Reed, if you
yeah,
ever see
yeah,
this. um,
yeah.
so I'll quickly summarize the segment because there really wasn't a whole lot that happened. You had Grayson Waller, who's obviously the hometown favorite in this whole thing, pretty much talk about how, well, to the fans, you had the greatest possible main event in history that you've been begging for years, and you decided you wanted this man, Cody Rhodes, this, that, and the other thing, yada yada yada. And then uh I don't know, Cody Rhodes, this was the best part about it. Cody Rhodes challenged The Rock to a one-on-one match anytime, anywhere. I'm curious to see where they go with that. We'll have to wait and see. But again, really no questions were really answered with this. And the reason I say that is there's two questions I was hoping to possibly get an answer for that we didn't. One, why did Cody Rhodes change his mind? Why
Hmm.
did he all of a sudden decide, you know what? At first, I don't want to wrestle you at WrestleMania. I want to give the spotlight to The Rock. And then all of a sudden he's like, you know what? No. This is BS. And I'm sorry. We have a breaking news. Oh, okay. Sorry. Watching MLB Network. We can edit that out
Okay.
after.
All right. All right.
Um, so we had Cody Rhodes call out The Rock. We didn't get the answer for why was why did Cody change his mind, but also what was it that Roman Reigns told Grayson Waller the previous night?
Hmm.
We did not get an answer for that.
Right.
So I want your thoughts on this because I honestly felt like this segment was a disappointment. I was hoping we could at least get some sort of an explanation on this whole storyline, but so
Yeah.
far we've gotten it's very confusing because this whole storyline could either be the best storyline we've seen in years, or it could be a
Mhm.
total flop. We just don't know. So I
Right.
want your thoughts on some of this.
Um, I don't really need to hear. I don't know. I could probably go till the end to hear what Cody has to say about, I didn't really need to hear that in this segment. What I did want to hear, or what I did want to see, was what was the big thing on SmackDown that Roman Reigns wanted to talk to Grayson Waller about. That was the setup. That was the main setup. Again, the Cody Rhodes thing, yes, you want to hear about it, but we could wait a little for I could wait a little longer for that.
Hmm.
Complete waste of time. This was like just something to fill space.
Yeah.
And you could have used that space on the women's elimination chamber match, and you
Hmm.
could have made it a little bit longer instead of putting this in there.
I agree, but I think the one thing is that we should have gotten from this show. Let me rephrase that. The one thing that makes this segment at least worth having was that Cody called out The Rock. We had been wondering how Cody was going to respond to the slap because we've
Well, he
heard it.
did say he wants to fight him one on one.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and we didn't.
So,
Cody said he wanted to get his revenge on Raw either last week or the
mhm.
week before. I don't remember when.
Right,
And
right.
this that kind of makes the segment at least worthwhile.
Mhm,
And even I forgot to mention this. Seth Rollins did say he was
mhm,
going to back him up. But what's the one
mhm.
thing that was interesting? And I was reading this. I don't remember where I saw this, but somebody said this could have alluded to Seth Rollins possibly backstabbing Cody.
I said that last week.
And
I said
but
I
this
said the
segment,
backstabbing part of it. No, but not the segment, but I
no,
I
this
said the
segment
back.
though alluded to it because
Right.
Grayson, it was either Grayson or Theory said something to Cody, and Seth just didn't say anything. And
Mhm,
one of the other, I don't remember who. I'm sorry. This 5 a.m. show. I should have rewatched it beforehand, but I didn't.
mhm.
Somebody had said, "Oh, you're gonna let him talk to you like that," and Seth did nothing. And then
Right,
that's when the brawl kind of started.
right.
So I still refuse to believe that that's happening.
Well,
Um,
I brought it up with the press conference thing,
I still
that
it
he
still
was.
feels like a conspiracy, like a crazy conspiracy to me. I just don't see it because both Cody and Seth are your biggest baby faces.
Yeah.
Why would they turn heel now? It just doesn't. I don't know.
I
You
think
could be
it
right, but I just don't see it.
I think it comes full circle from, when he did the chair shot to, Roman. I
Well,
think that, that's just kinda Seth Rollins,
see,
like.
here's my prediction. My prediction
So.
has actually changed from last week when we talked about the Hollywood Rock story. The
Mhm,
more I rewatch his Hollywood segment on SmackDown from last 2 weeks ago, the
mhm.
more I think The Rock could just be trolling Roman. Because
Right.
there was some obvious points that people were talking about. When The Rock said, "I'm gonna embarrass you, kick your ass," this, that, and the other thing, he was pointing at Roman A. B,
Mhm,
when he did the L instead of the throwing up the one, it's
mhm.
because The Rock could be refusing to acknowledge the tribal chief. And when all is said and done, if Cody's about to lose to the bloodline, that's when The Rock comes in and interferes, leading to their match.
So do you think we get a Mike Tyson
Yes, I do.
from way back when, where
Yes.
he turns on Shawn Michaels?
That's kind of what I can see. I mean,
Mm.
I kind of hope that's not the
Been there,
case.
done that, and I think a lot of people would remember that.
hmm
I
I
don't
don't know.
know. I would think they'd wanna do something different, wouldn't they?
Well, and that's kind of what I'm getting at here is I still don't like that we're using Hollywood Rock in this story because
And it's not really Hollywood Rock.
it really isn't.
I wish people would stop saying that
But
because it's
that's
not
what
the same.
he's pretty much said that's
Yeah,
what it
but
is though.
it's still not the same.
But
I
it
need him
just
to come
doesn't
out with
make
there with the
sense
guitar and come
because well, we still might remember. It's only
I
as
wanna
of
see it.
today, it's only March
Uh,
25th. I need
I
to
wanna
get
see him with those
February
songs,
25th.
man. Those
But
songs were brilliant.
that's the thing though that doesn't make sense about this because if we're gonna go with heel rock,
Yeah.
it would have made more sense to do this in a way
Yeah.
where the
Mm,
Rock's ego and his anger gets in the way, like it did at the kickoff. I don't get
yeah.
how does Hollywood Rock make sense in this story? You know, that's how the bloodline is. They're all business. You don't really see them joking like, except for Jimmy, but Jimmy's his own thing. And it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're
definitely getting
off
Jimmy.
topic.
Well, we're definitely getting Jimmy and Jay.
Yes,
So
and we're going to talk about that in our Raw preview.
That's the most definite. So.
But we got a little off topic there. So I
So,
give this segment kind of a D+. I was very disappointed with
I
where
give
this
it
went.
an F. Total
I
F.
wouldn't go that bad.
I did. I nope. I wanted
even with the Rock getting called out. You don't think that was a positive?
I wanted what was said, like what was Grayson supposed to do?
Mm-hmm. But you don't even think with Cody calling out the Rock made it
No, because it was
sorta?
I don't know because he could have done that on any other show. Could have done that.
Well, you had to have
on
something for the
He could have
Australian
done it
crowd.
face to face on next Friday.
He could have, but
which would have been more exciting.
But if you don't have that, then to me, then there's no point in the segment. That at least made the segment at least worth having. Not that it made it. Not that that makes it a good. I still think it was a very subpar segment. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just challenging your thoughts. That's all.
I know. I mean, and I'm not like, I'm just saying I just think it was enough. I think it was a complete waste of time. I didn't think it was necessary. I think they could have made one of the other matches longer. Especially the women's elimination chamber. We could have moved that up from a B to maybe like an A possibly. But yeah, I was disappointed. And I guess that probably is why I gave it an F, because I was so disappointed in.
Did Sporting News give a grade on it? Because Bleacher
Report
did not.
It didn't.
Okay.
It didn't.
All right. So it's just us rating. Okay.
It's just us.
All right. So we're gonna move along. 2 more matches.
Yep.
Men's elimination chamber. I'll quickly read off the eliminations. Drew McIntyre defeats Bobby Lashley. McIntyre eliminates LA Knight after AJ Styles attacked LA Knight. So that's gonna be an obvious feud for WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Randy Orton defeats KO. Which, by the way, KO trolling Logan Paul was hilarious.
I love that.
We'll talk more about that.
I love that.
Orton eliminates Paul with the RKO out of nowhere. McIntyre eliminates Orton after Logan Paul interferes with brass knuckles, punching the you-know-what out of Randy Orton. Right. So, my overall thoughts on this one, I was kind of surprised with the LA Knight elimination. I thought the AJ Styles interference was kind of genius, because I don't think a lot of people were expecting that.
I didn't expect that.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah. Like I said, Kevin Owens trolling Logan Paul and Logan Paul, trolling KO in the pods, I thought was hilarious. Yeah. It kind of gave me like lunatic Dean Ambrose type of energy. I found that to be very entertaining.
Right.
Randy Orton, look, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like the end with Logan Paul interfering, but it makes sense. In terms of the storyline base. I hated it because I don't like Logan Paul, but it does make sense. That's why I'm not going to complain about it. The one thing that does concern me, and maybe it's just WWE pushing the bounds between real and fake, not fake, scripted. Was it just me, or were you concerned with how Randy Orton looked towards the end of that match? Do you think that was storyline based, or do you think there's a little concern with people about? Because I saw a lot of concern on social media on if that was real or not.
Well, the guy's got like a ton of like metal in his back, so you got to remember, like, the guy could barely, like, I don't know if you saw the WrestleMania or Wrestling Rambles, I don't know, but he did an interview with I think was it ESPN, or it was one of those major outlets, and he said his back was pretty much, he couldn't even take his daughter trick-or-treating because he would literally have to sit between houses and literally like sit there, and even when he sat to go to the bathroom, couldn't do that right.
Yeah.
So his back was like shot. So you got to remember, like, he's just coming back from a fusion back surgery, and that's like, I mean, I don't know
2 years.
It's hard to say. Like, he came back in phenomenal shape, but
he did.
I mean, it could just be that, maybe he's just feeling some effects. I mean, but I don't know. It was kind of.
It could just be, I mean, if it is just story based, it makes sense. You're obviously going to target where he's been injured.
Right. Exactly.
It is interesting, and I think we saw this in his last match too. The Fatal 4-Way, I think, was his last
Yeah.
premium match.
Yeah.
So it is interesting, and it's definitely got the people discussing, and it's if it is just scripted, the WWE are geniuses for it because again, like we've been talking about after, like, for example, the WWE kickoff show for WrestleMania, it has you pushing the bounds of real and
It does.
scripted.
It does.
So it is genius if that's how they're doing.
It does.
So that my overall opinion on the match, solid match. I wouldn't put it necessarily at an A plus.
I would give it an A. I would give it a strong A.
I'm gonna range around an A. I think it was a solid match.
Yeah.
Nothing really too surprising. I was pulling for Randy Orton. I really wanted him to win. That's kind of why
I wanted Randy to win too.
I was a little disappointed with Drew winning, but it makes sense. I think we both.
So we're gonna
kinda
get. So
said,
are we gonna get Logan Paul versus Randy Orton
yeah,
for the U.S.
you have
title?
to.
For the U.S.
You
title,
pissed off the Viper.
right?
You
But you're
don't
gonna
do
get
that.
it for the U.S. title too, though. It's got to be a title shot, right?
Yeah, I would assume so. I mean,
He's
because
gonna want it. He's gonna have.
you're
to
not going to
want
have
the
Randy
title,
taking
right?
the two main either of the two main titles anytime soon. So
No, I think. You know, do you? Here's another question. Does the WWE want to make him a 15-time champion at
well,
some point?
so it's interesting you say that because I was just thinking about this. If let's say Drew does win at WrestleMania,
Or
defeats
tie
Seth
him with Triple
Rollins.
H?
If Drew beats Seth at WrestleMania, it kind of sets up perfectly to where Randy Orton, whether he wins the U.S. title or not, if it's a title match, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
it sets up kind of perfectly for SummerSlam to have Drew versus Randy, does it not?
Right. Well, yeah, of course.
I think it does. So
I think here's my originally. I think if it wasn't for Batista leaving, I think eventually it was going to be every single member of Evolution at the top of the title
mhm,
rung, with Flair, Triple H, Orton, and Batista
yeah.
being the four. And then that would have solidified them as, like, you know,
Mhm.
the greatest faction probably, well, other than the Four
Yeah,
Horsemen,
I could see
one of the
that.
greatest factions of all time.
I could see that.
Because Shawn Michaels didn't have, I mean, DX was Shawn Michaels kind of left, came back, left, came back. It was kind of hard. He had the drug issues, and that would have been hard to put the title on him that many times, like,
Yeah.
because there was a lot of issues there.
Mhm.
But I think, I don't know. I think maybe
We'll
Triple
see.
H had a plan, but
Yeah,
it
but
didn't kind of work out. But I still think he wants to kind of get Orton up there
and
as
he will. I
one of
think
the.
he will. If the back
Yeah,
holds up, I think he will.
yeah. So, but anyway,
Well, I
I
think
give it a strong A. This match.
Bleacher Report gives it an A minus.
Yeah, and Sporting News gave it an A too. But again, it was
There were some good spots. Bobby Lashley spearing Logan Paul through the pod, I thought was a very
yeah,
cool spot. I love that.
yeah.
Kevin Owens headbutting the pod
I
as
know that
Logan
was
Paul
pretty
was
awesome.
standing.
Well,
I know I keep going back to that. I
Or,
just think it was hilarious.
Orton getting on top of Lashley's pod was pretty genius too. Like the first
Yeah.
time, he, like, thinking like, okay, you're the big tough guy of the group, so let me
Hmm. Yeah.
let me get
So
on top of your pod. So
exactly. So
yeah,
solid match overall. We're gonna move to the main event.
yep.
The final match. Rhea Ripley defeats Nia Jax. Not so much, nothing really surprising here. I think overall we all knew what was
Oh,
happening.
something surprised me. All right, I'll tell you when I go.
So I think both competitors were great. Even Nia Jax, much as everybody's gonna hate to admit it, Nia Jax looked good in this match. Rhea looked good in this match. The crowd atmosphere, as good as it gets.
Hmm.
Especially when she's fighting in her own country. Not really surprised with the outcome. I don't think many people were. I don't think anybody was predicting Nia Jax to win in Australia. I don't think that was anywhere near the cards for this one.
Hmm.
So for me, I all around, I can't make any complaints about this. I give it an A.
Hmm. I'm gonna go one better. I'm gonna go A plus just because. And here's the thing. Um, the brutality of what Rhea Ripley had to. She got planted on that table with the monitors up You know,
Yes, that's true. I didn't even
usually
think
you
about that.
usually you clear everything out so that, you know, you don't land on she got put on that table, and the brutality of, like,
Mhm.
Nia just
Well,
constantly, like,
I wouldn't necessarily say that was a
interesting.
surprise, though. I mean, we've seen the way these 2 have been the way
No,
Nia's been getting the
but if
better
it's
the upper hand at on her the
if
last
if
couple weeks.
that's Liv Morgan,
Oh god.
I don't think Nia's as brutal as she is with Liv
Well,
Morgan.
alright, yeah, alright.
Or, you know,
Maybe.
I
You
I
never
think
know.
I think to the certain extent the match had to be catered because Rhea, it can take a lot more punishment, but I didn't
Mhm.
think she could take that much punishment. Like, she was beat and bruised throughout that whole match.
Yeah.
Like, literally, like, she had an upper hand a few times, but
Mhm.
Nia was, like, dominating that match.
Yeah, I agree.
And then when she
Which
put
was
her
to
on
be
although
expected, though.
that elbow kinda sucked when she's standing on the chair and she just basically, like, shifts from one place to another and gives her an
Y
elbow. That
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
wasn't really
that was kinda that
necessary.
elbow was a little lame. She coulda gone, you know, I would have liked to have seen her gone a little higher, but I don't think her ability to, like, jump from a further place, I don't think she could do that.
Mhm.
Um, but that was not great, but I think they wanted to get the effect of the table breaking.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the fact that when she planted her on that table, that was just like, wow,
That caught you off guard?
yeah, I was like, why would you not move the monitor? If that monitor breaks and then, like, you know, like,
Yeah.
what happened, you know, that her back, like,
Mhm.
that's crazy. Anyway, um,
Well, again, the people of Australia, they got a good show with this one. I can
that was a
definitely say
great
that.
yeah, that was a I thought that was a great match. And is there a perfect person to be, like, kind of an in-between heel slash, like, face? Like, one
You
of those
gotta
in-between types?
It's kinda Rhea if you think about it. I
It
mean,
is Rhea,
she's
it's
in a
her,
heel faction, but
but everybody
everybody
loves
loves
her.
her.
Everybody lo not just Australia, like
Everyone.
everyone.
I
They
mean, you
yell,
should see
"Mommy, mommy,
her
mommy," right?
crowd signings.
Yeah.
Um,
But do you think that hurts her with the Judgment Day, though?
no,
Because
I don't
they're
think
all
so,
heels and they're all pretty
because
much hated?
she still seems to do more her thing than anything else. It's not like she revolves around the Judgment Day
But do they
with
take
every
her
single
out
thing.
of the because that's what I'm saying is, like,
No.
she doesn't really reflect the Judgment Day really
I
anymore,
wouldn't
to
say
me.
that because remember, she's still the one kinda making the decisions for the
Yeah, she's
Judgment
kinda
Day.
pulling the strings, but I think, again, that's also caused problems between her and Damian, so I
Well,
don't know. I think
that'll probably be a post-WrestleMania
that'll be
storyline.
that'll be after WrestleMania, and
So, I'll ask you this, and I'm gonna give my thoughts too. Overall show grade, I give it a B plus. Nothing shocking. We pretty much got everything we sort of expected. Few disappointments, yes.
right.
Um, my overall grade, I give it a B plus. Um, again, it was a solid show. There was really nothing I could complain too much about. My only thing is it was not worth waking up at 5 AM or being up at 5 AM for.
No,
I
no.
will
I
say
mean,
that.
otherwise, we
Maybe
would've
I'm
been
just petty
if we
because I don't
did
like
go,
having
we'd
to
be
be up
kicking
that early
ourselves
for a
for
show.
certain I know, but we'd be I mean, I yeah, I get that. I get that. But I guess if it wasn't our thing and we weren't doing the podcast, I probably wouldn't have woken up.
Oh, I would have
I
anyway.
probably would have I probably would have waited to watch it on replay
I don't miss the
the next
pay-per-views
day.
because
Yeah,
social media spoils everything. That's
yeah.
why I don't miss the shows, and then
But,
if I did have to go to work yesterday, I would have been very upset. But
I
go ahead.
I think that the F I gave the Grayson Waller thing, and then the A plus I gave the Rhea thing. I guess in between, I would say I would say I would give it a B, just a B flat.
Mhm.
Um,
It's like not the most memorable show, but
no, I mean
entertaining.
it
Entertaining.
was higher than just passing. Like it was higher than a
Yes.
C. Um,
Not quite an A.
but not quite. Not quite the what was the show that we gave an A recently? Like
The Rumble?
I think it was
We
the
haven't
Rumble we
Yeah,
gave
because we
that.
haven't been on that long, so
Yeah, I think the Rumble I mean, no, I mean when we were doing the radio show, I was talking about. I believe I gave SummerSlam an A just because of
oh, the J match, yeah,
I think
mhm.
it was the J and then wasn't that the Trish match with Becky Lynch too?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I gave that an A just because I gave that match an A plus
Mhm.
because that was one of the greatest matches I've ever seen.
Yes.
Other than Shawn Michaels and Jericho.
Mhm.
Probably the one of the greatest matches I've ever seen.
Yes. So then we move along to our final segment. What can we look for on Raw and SmackDown? I'll pinpoint one really big thing I'm looking for, and then you'll do the same. I'll start with Monday Night Raw. Last week we saw Jimmy cost Jay the title against Gunther.
Yeah.
Is this where Jay
That was
calls
rough.
out Jimmy for a match of Mania, or do we see this story try to progress a little more? Because obviously the Bloodline cannot be on Raw every single week because they're not members of Raw.
Yeah, I didn't think of that when you
And
just said that. I was yeah.
and I don't think we can expect to see them every single week. I think this is just an episode where Jay's going to call him out, and then we'll see where that progresses Friday on SmackDown. I'm looking forward to it. I was very disappointed. I was reading some reports which I refuse to believe are real that Jay was supposed to beat Gunther at in that match last week. I don't think that makes any sort of sense. I don't know
Right.
why that's a report. If it is true, I mean, I was pulling for Jay. It felt kind of unpredictable towards the end,
Yeah.
where you thought Jay had the match won, just like every Roman match. Everybody thinks Roman's about to lose, then something interferes. That's kind of what it was. I kind of got caught. I will admit to it,
Right,
but
right.
I think I think in the end there was really no surprises um, to that match, and I actually called it when the Bloodline was there and they interfered with Cody and Drew's match.
Mhm.
So I think the biggest thing we can expect is we'll have to see how Jay responds to Jimmy's interference on Monday Night Raw. That's what I'm looking forward to most.
Right.
Vinny, what about you?
Um, I think well, yeah, Jay and Jimmy's probably. I still want to see what's going on with Damage Control, man. That's kind of the one thing
Well, we're
that
not gonna see that till
that's
Friday, though.
Friday. Um, I don't know. Yeah, the Jay Jimmy thing on Raw. I'm not really like Raw has not been like great for me. Like
Well, you know what it is.
I haven't been really been liking Raw lately.
I'm gonna tell you this.
I've been looking forward more to SmackDown
Well,
than Raw.
because that's where the big stories are, and
Yeah, and
that's
that's the
kind
weird
of.
thing is that Raw is going to Netflix. They paid all this money.
Mhm.
That's the main show.
Well, see, and here's my
Or
biggest
it's supposed to
problem.
be.
I'm sorry to say, I think the brand split's what's hurting Raw because
Yeah, just go back to the old days when it didn't matter.
yeah, well, I think you have to have something because you have different titles for different shows, but
I don't know.
I feel like those
I think
restrictions
they're yeah. I
are
know why they're
kind of
doing it.
hurting the product.
There's
Where I think it should be at least the champions can bounce back between different shows. I don't know if you would agree with that. I feel
yeah,
like that would make a little bit more sense
that
because
would, but I think they do it
isn't
because
that how
they
they did
can't
it in the
have
'90s?
yes, but they also had you had Stone Cold and The Rock wrestling like every show, just about.
Well, all right, yeah, that's fair,
You
but
can't do that. So
yeah,
I
you
think
can't
that's
do
why
that.
they have the brand split mostly anyway.
Well, and you have to admit, since Nick Aldis has come to SmackDown, it actually feels like there's a brand split again. Whereas a couple months ago,
I like Nick Aldis, by the
oh,
way.
I do too. He's entertaining.
Mr. Mr. Mickey James. I like
That
him.
man's built to where he could have a match. You ever
Oh,
seen the
he is.
side? Yeah, like he's
He used to wrestle. He used
yeah.
to wrestle. Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe we get Roman versus Nick Aldis down the line.
That
You
would
never
be
know.
pretty good.
That'd be interesting.
He's nowhere close to like I mean I remember like William Regal when he was younger
Hmm.
and he was like a badass and then when he
Yeah,
became general manager he was like a wuss more or less.
yeah.
Like
So
but I think Nick Aldis was good. I like him.
to move along,
But I think Raw I think again the J Jimmy thing is the biggest thing.
so then we
Kinda
move to SmackDown, and
yeah.
I'll start with what you
You
just
already
talked
know my
about.
answer to that.
Yeah, the
So
damage control
yeah.
storyline, which should be interesting. I'm interested to see how that match goes. I know Dakota Kai obviously just coming back from an injury definitely adds some intrigue to this. But
Yeah.
in the end, I don't think we actually get an end result for that match. I think it's going to just
Mhm.
end up being a brawl that, because remember, it'd be technically a 3-on-2. So you got to wonder who's going to be the two women in that match from the damage control side.
Mhm.
And I think it's just going to end up in chaos because it's SmackDown. You don't get legitimate matches on
Mhm.
you don't get legit matches on Raw and SmackDown. That's free TV. Somebody's going to interfere. So, what about you? Because this is your story that you're
I'm
interested in.
I'm interested in that, but there's also so many other things I'm interested in, like where they go with with Braun, where they go with Jade, where they go with um, Tiffany Stratton. They signed all 3 of those to SmackDown.
Yes, they did.
And you're still calling Raw your main show. I don't get it.
Yeah, it doesn't make
I
sense.
don't get it. Why not put like Braun on Raw and you're signing all these up and coming wrestlers who are going to make the show better.
It's just like the
I
brand
don't
split
get
from a
it.
few years ago. You're making it obvious what's your A show.
I
Like
just
there's no diversity really between the 2 shows. Yeah, you have Seth Rollins, the workhorse champ, but he can't wrestle right now. But outside of Seth and Jay and Cody,
right.
what else really is there
There's
to
nothing.
Raw?
And he isn't where's Randy?
Randy's on SmackDown.
He's on right, exactly. That's what
But you knew
so
that was gonna happen because he was gonna come after Roman.
he was
You
going to
have
come
to
after
admit to
Roman.
that.
That's fine. That's fine. But then you sign Braun, Tiffany,
Mm-hmm.
and by the way, what they did with Braun was like typical. Like
Oh, a squash match on Friday.
have him face.
Yeah, somebody we've never even really
Dude,
heard of.
yeah, dude is just and I again I love the Steiners. I've always loved the Steiners and the
So
fact that
I'll tell you this. One thing I don't think we're factoring in with this whole Raw conversation, The Rock is not signed to either show. So we could still see over the next couple months The Rock end up on Raw to talk with Cody.
yeah, but does that I don't
Anything could
know
happen because
though.
remember, Roman could use that. Roman could be like, well, I mean, Roman's going to do whatever he wants anyway. So he could be like, oh, we're going to Raw, whether they like it or not.
I
But
don't
The
know if
Rock
that's
can legit show up.
I don't know if even to me, I love The Rock, don't get me wrong. But I want to see newer faces.
Well, and that's what
And
everybody's saying.
the fact that, you have Stratton, Cargill, and Breaker on
Mm-hmm.
the so-called B show.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Roman on that show pretty much, even though, he's pretty much I mean, he's literally SmackDown. I mean, you could
Oh,
say
yeah.
he goes on any show, but he's SmackDown. So
Yeah,
you
he
have
is.
the main champion on that show. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of things I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to see what Tiffany Stratton's like first real rivalry is going to be,
Mm-hmm.
who it's going to be with,
Yes.
because she has to have somebody that
Well, yeah, and
because
that's
she's already done Becky pretty much like
well,
with
now that we're
NXT.
post pay-per-view, that's what's going to make these episodes so interesting this week is
I want to see if they give her a WrestleMania match,
oh, she's going to get one. There's no way you can't
and
have
I
her.
want to know who it's going to be against.
Well, we may not find out immediately, but we could get some hints this week.
I mean, we have what 40 some days, but again, I'm looking forward to so much. I guess the damage control thing is the main one, but I'm looking forward to a lot more on SmackDown than I am on Raw.
Well, and the
I mean, I
big
guess
thing
that's
is
the whole
too
point.
this week, The Rock will return
And
to SmackDown. I
there's
don't
another
know if
reason to
Roman's going to
watch
be there.
SmackDown.
I
Huh?
don't know if they haven't said if Roman's going to be there though. So I wonder if it's just going to be The Rock
I'm
coming out by himself or with the
I'm gonna
Bloodline.
call this. I'm gonna call this right now. Between now and WrestleMania, we won't see Rock and Roman on the same show at all.
I wouldn't go that far.
I'm gonna
I
call
can
it.
see them not being on all the time together, but it could be like a once in a
No,
while. Like I wouldn't go that far, especially with
I'm gonna
WrestleMania
call it.
coming up. So
You'll see Solo and Jimmy with The Rock.
and Roman.
You won't see Roman. You
Well,
may
and
even
that's
see Paul Heyman, but I don't know how much The Rock actually likes Paul Heyman though. So I don't know if that's gonna
mm,
be a thing.
well, we'll
We'll
see.
see. We'll
I
see.
mean, the
We'll
big
see how
thing
it works out. We'll
I
see how it
think
works out.
the big thing for this episode is how does The Rock respond to
To
Cody's
Cody, right?
challenge?
Of course.
And the bigger question is if he does accept, how do they how do
Where does that match
when and
go,
where?
and what do we do that?
Because there's
What do we
no
do?
other pay-per-views
Mhm.
until WrestleMania. So is it a night one thing? Somebody one of
Is
the
it a Raw SmackDown? Is it like a SmackDown
no,
match?
here's how I could see it happening. You have at so I'm gonna give credit because I was watching a review of Elimination Chamber late last night. The
Mhm.
YouTuber's called The Great One. Makes very good wrestling content. Go check him out. I'll shout him out because I think he's got great content. I take a lot of my wrestling inspiration for this podcast from his show. I'm not saying I'm copying his show. I swear, I'm not doing that. Our show, he's more goofy. We're more serious. But
Right.
he brought up an interesting point. What if you had to open WrestleMania Night 1, Rock versus Cody, winner gets Roman for Night 2? I think it would put Cody more over for that match. If you're going to stick to heel Rock for that match, I actually would be kind of behind that because, it does leave that unpredictability. You'd still get a diverse crowd because there's still a ton of people, myself included, that would rather see Rock versus Roman. So
Right.
I actually wouldn't hate that if that's how they went about it, because
Yeah, I don't know if
they
you could
kind
do
of
that.
did that with Daniel Bryan and Triple H, if you
I
remember
know.
WrestleMania
Yeah.
30.
Yeah.
So you wonder if they run it back 10 years later or
I
something
don't know
like
if they
that.
do that only because like everybody so wants to see Roman Cody that
Well, and that's the thing though, but that
if
would put that
Rock
would
wins, then people are gonna go,
but
well,
I
then
don't
why do we build up to this whole thing then? And
but
then
I don't think they do that. If you think about it, it's smart because it get Cody more over. And that's what WWE's wanted all along, is to get Cody as over as possible for this match. Do you think that that's what that would work in this situation?
I don't know. I don't know how, because we all know that it's wrestling is scripted, and if you have Rock beat Cody, I think people go, well, here's just another means to the way they wanted it ended and the way
But
they
you
didn't
have to
listen to
factor
us. So,
too, The Rock has to wrestle at WrestleMania. You can't have The Rock not wrestle because
well, yeah, because then it's a waste of this whole thing's a waste of time.
exactly. So do you think worst case scenario? I don't think you have The Rock win because we all saw the backlash. That's not going to happen. I'm
Yeah,
convinced that's not happening.
yeah.
Do you think it ends in a situation where, and I'm just speaking hypothetically, kind of a joking sense,
Mhm.
the bloodline interferes to where we get a no contest turns into a triple threat so that everybody gets a little of what they want?
I thought it was going to be a triple threat in the beginning, actually.
We still could get it
Um,
because you
but
have to have
here's
Rock there. But
I
can The
could
Rock
call
wrestle 2 nights in a
I
row
could
too?
yeah, that would be a little. I mean, he's in great shape, but I don't know if that's something that he actually wants to do or if he
Or can do?
can do. But that's interesting that you say that because I can see the bloodline getting involved and then The Rock kind of turning and going, look, you know, kind of like what Hogan did to the NWO back in the day, that
Yeah.
he didn't want them like interfering with the Rock's match, and then
Hmm.
the NWO and Hogan split
Yeah.
because they did interfere.
Well, I
And
think it does kind of set up perfectly what I alluded to earlier is if you have The Rock cost Roman the title in some sort of way,
yeah,
this would probably be the best way to do it, in my opinion.
yeah,
If this is the route they go down.
they still have so many. There's still like over a month left.
I
That's the
know there's
problem.
so many
There's so
unanswered
many ways
questions.
they could go that
Like I
it's just
said,
hard to call,
it
really.
could either be the greatest story ever planned or
Yeah.
the biggest flop in wrestling
Well,
history.
this could be the greatest work of all time too.
It could be. I mean, we all
we
got
could
worked
be
with the
we could
Cody
all be
situation.
getting worked, and you know it's one big work anyway, really.
Yeah.
But from what I heard though, I've watched Busted Open, and a lot of people are saying there's no way this could have been the way they planned it.
Hmm.
This had to have been they had to have taken a complete 360 from the original storyline that they had.
Oh yeah, because
That's at
I
least
think
what Billy Ray was saying.
well, because that's what I truly think that the plan was for Rock versus Roman at
Yeah,
WrestleMania
I think that
until the
because of the
backlash.
backlash, yeah,
They
because of the
had to change
backlash,
it.
they had to change it, and so
And that's why I feel
that
like every week the story is changing
but
because I
that's the
feel like
great thing about
they
wrestling
weren't,
is they can do something like that,
and
though.
that's the thing, because that they weren't planning for that. So they're
No,
probably working
yeah,
on the fly to make this stuff happen. So
yeah,
that's what makes this all fun and interesting. And
yeah.
that's why you should tune in next week.
Wrestling is fun, everyone. Wrestling is fun.
Exactly. And that's why you should tune in next week for our post Raw and Smackdown edition of the Elimination Chamber.
Correct.
Um, see where the stories progresses. We are now less than 6 weeks away from WrestleMania. Vinny, any final thoughts from you before we sign off?
Um, everybody needs to watch this. Everybody needs to watch up until WrestleMania at least. I mean, you should be watching all year, but I mean, you
This is
got
big
everybody should be. This is the lead up
to the biggest
to the
WrestleMania of all
biggest,
time.
probably one of the biggest WrestleManias of all time, other than the first one, because the first one was monumental in its own
Oh
right.
yeah, of course.
And a lot of people weren't around then, but I was.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
um, you know. but yeah, definitely everyone should be watching. Everyone should be tuning into their favorite podcast. Hopefully one of them
Yes.
is ours. Um, you know, like, comment down below if you disagree or if you agree.
Yes,
So
we'd love to hear from you.
yeah.
And with that being said, we sign off for today. We thank you again for tuning in, and we will see you next week on SNV Sports WWE. Have a great one, everybody.
Bye everybody.